And I think it was like first grade where I knew, I was like, I want to be a lawyer. I would tell everybody.
Dawn is the first African-American woman to rise from associate to equity partner in the state of Indiana.
The other side of that is kind of lonely. That's what made it hard, not so much the work. So being what I needed absolutely powers me. So I decided to propose that we create an executive level position to drive strategy around making sure that our firm is a place for everybody, regardless of background. I didn't want it to be a program. I wanted it to be a heartbeat. It was the scariest time of my life because I didn't know what they're going to do and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was at a moment where everything that scared me about making a shift was outweighed by staying the same.
Welcome back to the NEI Pioneer Podcast. This podcast is all about sharing the stories and the people in Northeast Indiana. If you're watching this podcast, you might realize this is not our studio. And that's because our studio is packed up and on the road filming another exciting Pioneer Path episode, so stay tuned for that. But today, Jonathan Sackett and Callie Herring sit down with Dawn Rosemond, who is a partner at Barnes Thornburg, which is one of the top 100 largest law firms in the country. Dawn started at the company in 1995 as an intern. And throughout her career journey there, she has risen from associate to partner. Despite her impressive career accomplishments, what stood out to us about her story was her work ethic and passion. In this episode, Dawn shares about how she went from intern to partner, what the hardest part of her career journey has been and how she overcame it, and why Barnes Thornburg's 3 pillars of sponsorship, integration, and culture are so important to her. All that and more in today's episode. Take it away, Jonathan.
Dawn Rosemond.
Yes.
Welcome.
Hey.
I got to tell you, and today my co-host is Callie, our producer. She's usually behind the camera. Today she's out front.
I love it.
Welcome. I
Thank
got to
you
tell
for having
you,
me.
you were recommended from Nick Dara, who works with us.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm honored, honestly, to be here. This
Yeah.
is really cool.
I got to tell you, this was the most interesting thing to me when we were going over the bio. Dawn is the first African-American woman to rise from associate to equity partner at Barnes Thornburg and in the state of Indiana.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's cool.
Thank you. It is. I always say it is a amazing stat, one in which I'm incredibly proud of. It's not something that it wasn't like, it's not a goal, right?
Yeah.
I was just trying to do good work and show up and be a good partner, be a good teammate, all the things, and grow and advance and things like that. So that wasn't the goal. The reality of it, though, is really, really cool. I mean, diversity just means difference. I mean, literally, the Webster definition, it just means difference.
Yeah.
This whole room is diverse right now.
Yeah.
And it would have been diverse if I wasn't in it. The efforts to try and make sure that all talent have a fair shot, regardless of background, is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And, I'm proud, to kind of go back, kind of bring it back to where we started. I'm proud I'm a proud black woman, and I'm proud to be, to have that as part of my story, being the first black woman to, become an equity partner at Barnes. I'm proud of the firm because it tells you that our firm has had, I say this a lot of times, and I know we've been getting ahead of ourselves, but it sounds like a marketing spiel to say, like, we have a long-standing history of making sure that that all talent have a chance to succeed here. I think I'm proof of that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because like I said, I joined back in 1995, 96 officially. But, I never, if I show up in the room and in all the same skin, same flow, same height, same everything, and I don't have the goods, I don't have the work ethic, I don't have all those things, it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter. That's not what it's about. It's not about giving somebody some sort of like extra shot. It's about,
and I think, I think my parents instilled that work ethic in me. I grew up in Wisconsin.
Okay.
So outside of Milwaukee. And I think there's like here, it's Hoosier humility. Yeah. I see it all the time. In fact, we had a heck of a time getting people on the show.
Really?
Because people felt like that's bragging if you come on the show. I mean, Callie does all the screening. She'll tell you. Right? I mean, Hoosier humility is real, and work ethic in Wisconsin is real.
Yeah.
You got to have a good parental structure to teach that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's where you probably got it
Very
from.
much so. I mean, my mother is She's 80 years old. And is
my mom's 85.
Is that right? That's awesome. It's awesome. And she's from the South, deep South, and raised us, my brother and I, by ourselves, and literally.
How many kids were in the family?
Just 2 of us.
Wow.
My brother and I. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and literally, I mean, the things that I always tell people when I get a chance to speak, I'm like, the things that you like about me or my work ethic or all those things, go say thank you to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have a stellar reputation, by the way. And we got your book even here.
Thank
so
you.
we're going to get into some of this stuff. But, there it is. Callie will be modeling your
guys,
book. I'll
you
be
guys
modeling
can't,
the shoes.
Yeah, you guys can't see the money I'm passing under the table. Thank you guys. Yeah.
You talked about wanting to be an attorney or a lawyer almost your whole life.
Yeah.
Why? Where did that come from?
I'm going to answer it 2 ways.
TV shows.
No, not at all. Not at all. I never had any sort of association or leaning toward any sort of images of lawyers. I never saw any. I didn't have any in my family. If I'm answering that sitting here today, I could talk to you all day about this thing called purpose. I get it now, but that's totally hindsight. Then, I don't know. It was just, pretty early on, I think it was like first grade, where I knew. I was like, I want to be a lawyer. I would tell everybody. I found an old yearbook, man. It's written, some kid wrote, you're going to be a great lawyer.
No way.
Yeah, they don't know. They didn't, they didn't even know what it was. It's like, I'm a fireman, an astronaut, a lawyer, right? You're going to be a great lawyer. But I wanted to be a lawyer since I was a little kid. And from that moment, everything I did academically or anything I wanted to join, my only question was, is it going to help me be a lawyer?
Wow.
Is it going to help me be a lawyer? I know it was probably, when I think back on it, if I could go back and look, I'm like, man, I was a weird kid.
Well, did you?
I'm a weird adult, but I'm a weird kid.
I'm a weird adult.
I'm a weird adult. Yeah.
But with your reputation, you had to have been recruited. People had to have tried to recruit you away from these guys, right?
I had an opportunity to go. So let me kind of back up a little bit, just a little bit of history. So I had the privilege of being a Watson Scholar, which was a scholarship that Lincoln National Corporation used to give out. It was an academic scholarship. And so I worked there every summer when I was in undergrad. When I was at IU, I worked there every summer. And so I met all the people. Then I begged and pleaded for Jack Hunter, who was then the general counsel, to let me into the law department. I didn't know anything. I just knew I wanted to be a lawyer. And I figured lawyers should hang around to be lawyers should hang around lawyers.
Right.
They're like, sure, because this kid keeps begging people. And so I Will Smith here is a stellar, part of our community. I begged him, can you please talk to someone? And I ended up in the law department, making copies of pocket parts, dating myself, but doing all those things. And so by the time I got done, I clerked with Lincoln for the first year out of law school. And then I clerked with Barnes my second summer. And then I got an offer from both, and decided that it made sense for me to choose Barnes Thornburg. I thought that I didn't think I would. It wasn't a knock at all against Lincoln. I just didn't think I would get a shot like that again.
Really?
To work at a firm like Barnes Thornburg. That was a coveted spot in coming from my law school. I mean, and the fact that I was gonna get that opportunity was something I just didn't know how to say no to.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did you think you were gonna just be an in-house?
I didn't know anything about being a lawyer. I told you I didn't know. I just wanted to be a lawyer. I didn't even know what it meant. It wasn't about money. You want to make. I didn't know what they did. I just wanted to be this thing. Wow. I get it now, but I did not get it then. But I pursued it like crazy, and then and so I didn't know. I guess if I never had encountered a Barnes, maybe I would have been in house at Lincoln. But what's funny, I don't know if I just realized this not too long ago. I used to deliver in making those pocket parts and things. I used to deliver packages and things over to the law firms that served Lincoln, that had Lincoln as a client. Barnes was one. I didn't know anything about Barnes Thornburg. And so I would come over and deliver things to them. And I didn't realize it was the same place until several years into practicing. I was there in the office. We were still in the Summit building. I was there late, and I was just waiting on the elevator, and I was just quiet. Nobody was there. It was kind of dark outside, and they had these gold elevators, or kind of brass elevators, doors. And I remember standing there, and it was like something like clicked, and I started looking around. I'm like, oh my God. It's like, this is the place that I used to deliver. And I remember saying, when I used to deliver things over to Barnes, maybe one day I want to work in a place like this.
Yeah.
I'd never seen anything like that. My mom was a factory worker. I mean, nothing wrong with that. She raised us, but I never had exposure. So I remember being enamored and in awe of the people in suits and being able to see these big tables and fancy doors and fancy elevators. And I did not remember it was the same place until, my gosh, at least probably like 5 or 6 years later.
But I think that you carved out a place for yourself.
I did.
With these guys. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure.
Because you're doing internal stuff as well there.
Yeah. So I'm, like I said, I'm a partner with the firm, and I've been a partner since 2005, and an equity partner. And I had I'm a litigator by trade, a trial lawyer. But in 2016, I decided, probably kind of same kind of life moment, or whatever the right word is, that I needed to do life differently. Mm-hmm. I wanted to do life differently. I wanted to show up differently. And I didn't know what that meant at all. And there was no precedent for it in our firm. I wasn't even expecting our firm. It wasn't even about the firm. Barnes has been good to me. It was just, I wanted to live life in a different way for me, day in and day out. And so I decided, there's a lot more, details and minutiae in there, but I ultimately decided to propose to the firm that we create an executive level position to actively and intently drive strategy around making sure that our firm is, a place for everybody, regardless of background. And I proposed a role to the then managing partner, and we went back and forth, but he liked it more than he didn't. I didn't actually think they'd do it.
Well, how long did that take from I have this idea to getting the idea into fruition?
A few months, because it's
Wow.
all 2016. So I think early 2016 is when I kind of had this
epiphany of some sort?
Epiphany, breakdown moment, whatever you want to call it. And this was an official position by October of 2016.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
I would expect a law firm to move a lot slower than that.
Again, you'll hear this from me a lot. I mean, there are a lot of proud nuggets. I did not think they would do it. How did
you sell it? Because did they ever say to you, we don't do that?
Well, we were already doing it.
Okay.
Just not in this way, not on this level. Like I said, we have a long-standing commitment to this work.
Yeah.
We just were not doing it like this. And I suggested, hey, we are a national law firm. We're an MLaw 100 firm. We hold ourselves out as being the best client servant, all the things. And I just suggested, I'm like, hey, I don't think we can authentically say those things if we're not getting this part right.
Yeah.
And so, I felt like I needed to be honorable to the ask. And so I created an entire role and what it could look like, and provided like a 3-month kind of, look forward into what I think could get accomplished if you let me create and build. And I did my research and things before I did that, and had a lot of conversations. There was a lot of, don't get me wrong, it was the scariest time of my life. Absolutely scariest, because I didn't know what they're going to do, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew I was at a moment where everything that scared me about making a shift was outweighed by staying the same.
Okay. That's an interesting way to look at it.
I read this thing once sitting in our break room. Was somebody left a magazine? I think it was O Magazine or something. It was in our break room. And there was an article in there about this woman who was an executive, and she had like a C-suite executive in this company, huge executive, and she'd stopped and she started like doing something completely, 180 degrees different, and bought a boat and was doing all sorts of things. And the thing at the bottom of it, and it always stuck with me. She's like, there's a lot of reasons not to throw your life up in the air just to see how it lands.
Yeah.
Just don't let fear be one of them. I certainly had a lot of years at Barnes at that time. I'd like to think I had a really good reputation and
You do.
had a lot of goodwill.
Yeah.
But I don't think that that's enough to just say like, hey, give me this. I needed to make it make sense. It needed to make business sense for us. I wanted to make sure they understood that what I was proposing was not some sort of thing off to the side that was just going to be nice and felt good and it was the right thing to do. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I wanted them to understand that if in fact we are trying to be the best client servants we could be,
Purpose.
this needs to be a part
Yeah.
of what we do, and that we when we do it authentically, then we ought to leverage and sell it shamelessly.
Yeah, I love
because
it.
it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want it to be a program. I wanted it to be a. It sounds weird to use it this way, but I wanted it to be a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm. I always say soul.
Thank you.
If it's in your soul, if it's innate, I think that what happens is the belief structure is there.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's by sheer will or conviction.
Yeah.
You know, you can force things to happen.
Yeah.
And frankly, this team, the MarCom team here, we reinvented this.
Yes.
It's because it was through sheer will. Will and opportunity.
That's right. I mean, prime example, our commitment to all talent, regardless of background, is anchored. It's anchored by 3 pillars: sponsorship, integration, and culture.
Yep.
Those come.
It's in the notes here.
Yeah, but those come from my own lived experience at the firm.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have anything else. I didn't have anything other than to lean on. What the heck how did it feel for me to be here? And so I literally assembled a task force. It sounds really formal, but I just called people. I'm like, okay, I need people from these different stakeholders within our company to talk to me. And I told them, I'm like, look, I need, for this to stick, folks need to be in an elevator. And when you ask them like, hey, what's Barnes' commitment in this regard? You need to be able to sponsorship, integration, and culture. What does that mean? And I'm like, that made sense to me. I needed to get rid of all the noise and make something simple. And those came because, one, I was sponsored. I know it matters when someone takes your career personally, when they give a damn.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sure that it was available to everybody. Sponsorship, integration. I spent my entire career journey there, and I knew because of my experience there that there were things that were getting decided in certain places that didn't trickle down to the folks that necessarily we were trying to necessarily help or what have you, or trickle down to a certain market or office. And so, within a certain function of our organization. So to me, if you say we care about X over here and it doesn't show up over here, then there's a disconnect. So integration mattered to me.
Right.
And then culture. I just had watched our clients, for good or for bad, and I think corporate environments did it better at that time at least, they actively cultivated culture. And I don't think law firms, at least at that time, I didn't have an experience that law firms were that great at cultivating a tangible culture. They were like, we do this, we build time, we do all these things. But I'm like, but culture, like what makes people stick? Like want to be here, like feel proud of being here, like feel safe being here.
See, I always looked at law firms as being like a wrestling team, because it's every man for themselves. When you're out there, the team can't help you that much. So I never saw, and again, what do I know? But I never saw a law firm as a culture. I saw it as every man for themselves, more or less.
Well, it's not like that, but I think you're making my point.
Yeah.
Because I think that was the perception. It maybe
Yes.
still is.
Yeah.
Right. And so, how wonderful is it, right, to cultivate something that then you can go out and talk to a new student or a lateral that's looking to make a move, and you're like, what's it like to be there?
Right.
And then they talk to you, and you're like, really? And they're like, okay, maybe Dawn has to say that because that's her role or that's she, whatever. But then you talk to 5 people, and they're like, yeah, this is what it's like, and I'm in this market, and that's what it's like, and I'm in this market. We're not perfect. Nobody's gonna be perfect. If somebody tells you they're perfect, do not join. They're crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
right.
You're right. But
Don't
yeah,
join, they're
it's
crazy.
crazy. It's crazy if they're like, we're perfect over here. But I felt like it was important, and so that's how we got to those anchor pillars, and I wanted to, and it allowed me to be able to build on something, and so that gives us stickiness folks can be like, what are you trying to do? Sponsorship. We take care of our talent. It's how we care about our talent. Integration, making sure that the business of the firm is aligned with the business of our values.
Yeah.
Right? Culture. We're cultivating a place where you want to be there, you want to be there, you want to be there, I want to be there.
Yeah, a couple things for you. First off, can you talk a little bit about the different initiatives that you do head up within your role?
So my gosh, so many things. I mean, so my responsibility is to activate on these things. I'd be remiss. I mean, I've got an amazing team, and I've got it wouldn't be possible without all the buy-in, the integration, right? All my partners, all the stuff from the top down, our management committee. But we, also one of the first things we got across the finish line was an inclusive parental leave policy. That was like one of the first things we did when I came.
Say that again.
An inclusive parental leave policy.
Okay.
That because before, there was a disconnect between the length of benefits that you would receive if you were at a particular level, if you were a lawyer versus what we call our business professional team and things like that. And so I didn't think that inclusion makes sense if we're only talking about one segment of our population. And so we were trying to figure that out, and we worked to get an inclusive, all-encompassing parental leave benefits policy across the finish line. And so, that which is just a game changer. And one of the things another proud moment, that's a decision made by a body, our leadership, our management committee, that was forward thinking, because most of the folks, the lion's share, not everybody, but in that room, were probably past. Their kids were, they're not growing their families as much.
Right.
That was an investment in someone coming next year, or things like that. So that was really cool. And then we won an award for our. It's still ongoing. It's one of the first things that we did was it's called the I Am Barnes Thornburg campaign. It's a relationship building campaign, and it's one of those things that sounds touchy-feely, but has such an amazing impact because I happened upon a podcast by, I'm going to say her name. Her name is Ngozi Chiamando. I'm going to fix that and send it to you so I say it right.
Okay.
Yeah, but she had a podcast. It's 18 minutes called The Danger of a Single Story. And it was awesome. And all she was saying was, like, when we only know the one thing, I'm a woman. I know you're wearing those shoes. I know this. Then we kind of make these assumptions, and that's where all these other thoughts come in. But when
all you have is a hammer.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And so when I get past that single story of you, it creates such a better collective. And so I wanted to figure out, how do we do that? And so we started this campaign, and every month we have 4. Sometimes we shift it and have more, but 4 or 5, maybe it's 6, I don't know. But we have folks who raise their hand to be a part of IMBT. We have them include a picture that is not their firm picture, and they have to give us 10 identity tags that about who they are, and all that ends with, and it starts with I am, and you'll say, like, I am a lover of shoes, a lover of all things Beyonce, a lover of all all the things, yeah. Right? And then it says at the bottom, I am Barnes Thornburg, because our umbrella around our commitment is our uniqueness.
Mm-hmm.
And so it has resulted in people getting work opportunities and getting plugged in. I had one person reach out, send me copies of the I Am Barnes Thornburg, and say, I didn't know there was anybody else that was dealing with, doing this relative to, an autistic child. And so I'm going to get, and I'm connected now with this person. It's just, so it makes us a better firm.
Right.
Makes us a better firm. So
I love that.
Yeah.
It's the pioneer thing for us, right?
Awesome.
I love the through line of, your 9 to 5 and your side gig, that I feel like you in both roles are helping people understand their potential and that they belong, and they have a seat. If there's not a seat at the table, pull one up, kind of thing. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and if I may, I would say it like this, because to your point, I am me regardless. Whatever I'm doing, I don't have a side gig. It is just me showing up, trying to point people to their greatness, and I get to do it. And honestly, when you ask me, like, proposing this role and what was I doing, honestly, that was what I was chasing. That I was chasing purpose. So I think you're asking me about, like Rain and my book and my writings and all those things. That Dawn is the same Dawn that shows up in this role. I am after. I truly believe that if I can get people turned on to what's unique and amazing and special about them. They're singular. If I can get them turned on to that, it kills so many things that plague organizations. Imposter syndrome costs the organization so much money every year. I mean, all sorts of things, like not raising your hand. I mean, like, think about it. If I build a program, and I'll get back to the books, but if I build a program and says, let's say we I want more, there's not enough representation in this particular role, particular aspect of our company. You're like, all right, we'll build a program to garner more people. It won't matter if those folks don't think that they're worthy enough to raise their hand. So I spend my time on talking about the thing that, one, I can control, and the thing that I know they can control. And it's actually, I'm proof of concept, because the way I showed up at Barnes Thornburg back in 1996 is not the Dawn sitting in front of you today. I had no idea who I was. I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a lawyer. Didn't know what that meant. But I had no idea that I belonged in the room. I had no idea that I could take up the space. That I could raise my hand and not have to, feel scared about paying for that later. I mean, those feelings still come, but now it's just, my worth and value is just not even on the table for discussion. So I just, so when I, that part of me, the fact that that's who I am, naturally spills over into, I'm a writer. And so, I want to write. When I speak, it's what I'm trying to do, is just get people turned on to themselves. I think it matters, not just for them, but it makes me a better teammate, makes me a better collaborator, makes me a better leader. And so I created RAIN to help me.
REIGN.
REIGN.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the dopest word in the world. It means to overcome, to dominate, to superabound, to ascend, to win, to sway, to have influence, the essence of win, to wear a crown. I'm a word nerd. I don't know if you noticed.
I did notice.
You did notice
Yes.
that? Yeah. But it's so cool. And it's just so all-encompassing to me. And like I said, I'm proof of concept. I didn't get a hold of it so I could sell a T-shirt or sell a book. I was trying to heal.
Yeah.
I was just trying to heal. Like, Callie, you accomplish things, you do stuff, you get the accolades, you get stuff on your wall, you get ink in the paper, all the things. So what the heck is wrong with you now? And I had to answer that question. You can be highly accomplished and highly broken at the same time.
I mean, yeah, you've been talking about your purpose and having to find it and all those things. In your book, this is something I underlined and then copy pasted, put it in the notes. It just says, stop whining about your purpose and what you are to become, and be what you needed to those around you.
Yeah.
How is that like? Yeah.
That's what empowers me. That's how I show up.
Where did that come from?
I just remember. I remember what I felt like when we tout that stat, Dawn, you're the first African-American woman to become a partner at Barnes Thornburg. The other side of that is it's kind of lonely.
Yeah, oh yeah, I bet.
Yeah, I was kind of lonely. And, you add that to someone who's not fully aware who they are.
Mm-hmm.
That's what made it hard, not so much the work. I mean, the work's hard enough by itself. And it comes from the fact that I remember what it was like to be, to not have anybody to call, or not know I had someone to call to ask, not how to write this brief or how to do that, but can I wear my hair this way?
Yeah.
Or to help navigate, a particular social gathering. Should I show up like this? What do I do here? What does this mean when they said this? I remember what it felt like to at times have to hunt for work. I remember what it felt like to not, to feel like I wanted to quit and not have anybody to tell for fear that it would not that I was gonna quit, but that I still felt like it and I couldn't say anything. So being what I needed absolutely powers me. Yeah. Because maybe another phrase for it is is it empathy? Is it what? I don't know. But I literally remember. That's actually my ask. My big pitch, my bring it home moment, quite frankly, all the time to my partners, to my colleagues in my big program, if you will, with regard to, the work I get to do for the firm is I'm asking you to remember, because you weren't always this brilliant.
Yeah.
You didn't always know how to write that brief. You too made a really terrible mistake that you thought was career limiting. So give them a shot and then make them do it again. And when they fall down, give them another shot. And so I remember somebody did, when I did get that, I remember how life affirming it was. Mm-hmm. When I didn't get it, I remember how lonely it was, how hard it was.
Yeah.
So
it's really funny that you commit that I think, people always say you can't change the past. Well, your perception of the past changes.
That's right.
Over time.
What is the point, too? And I think about this. What's the point of going through all the stuff you've gone through if you're not going to actually leverage it and help somebody?
Right.
Otherwise, you absolutely wasted your time.
But I think you're right. But I also think that there's brilliance and simplicity in being able to see the potential in others.
Yeah.
And I thank God that there were some people out there that believed in me over time.
Likewise.
And I can name those names.
That's right.
You talk about having a long memory.
That's right.
That's where I want to go with this is, who are the people, obviously your mom.
Yeah, sure.
But who else, a specific name.
Sure. Like I just filled out, shout out to Denita Washington. She had asked me to be featured in folks who went to Fort Wayne Community Schools. Mm. And so I had to write this whole, do this whole thing. And so she asked me a simple thing. Similar thing. She's like, one of the questions was like, name a mentor. And without question, I'm like, Fred Blanks. He was my guidance counselor at Northrop. But for Fred Blanks, Mr. Blanks.
Is he still around?
I think he's still there. I can't call him Fred Blanks. That would be, I feel like I'm like.
Mr. Blanks?
Mr. Blanks.
Okay.
But for Mr. Blanks, I would not have gotten that scholarship at Lincoln. It wasn't just an ego grab. Mm. If I didn't get that scholarship at Lincoln, my mother would not have been able to pay for me to go to school. My brother was an athlete. I didn't know how. I applied for every scholarship imaginable. I applied for everything. I mean, like if you can apply for this one if you're short. I'm like, that's me. I'm like anything.
I'll be shorter. I'll be shorter if I need to be.
That's right. So I applied for that, but he made me write that essay over and over again, and I did not like him at that moment. He was like, "You're better than this, Dawn. Do it again." And I'm like, golly, God, you're better than this. Will Smith, I mentioned him. He worked at Lincoln. Will Smith single-handedly, he and Kathy Kolb, he helped me so much at Lincoln. I'm scared. I'm a terrified 18, 19-year-old kid in a work environment. I'm like, what do people do all day? I can't believe you work all day.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here? Like, what am I supposed to do? And then they have the audacity to be like,
I can't believe we work all day.
I couldn't figure it out. I was like, what are we doing?
What am I doing? You mean I go into this building and I got to stay there?
Oh, my gosh. I was like, I got to stay here all day?
Yeah.
And then, and then to beg to go into the law department. They had never had, think about it, they had never had an intern in the law department who was not already in law school. Because they're like, what do we do with them? They don't know anything. They're not even what do we do with them? He made that happen for me. He leveraged his brand for me to go in there and make copies and sing while I was wearing, because I didn't know anything about it, and wearing my headphones, my Sony Walkman.
Can you sing?
I do sing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you going to sing for us or not?
Are you gonna make me?
Something tells me I couldn't make you do anything.
But I don't know. But yeah. So I mean, I think about Will. I think about Jack Hunter, who was the general counsel.
Yeah.
At Lincoln. I think Alan Mills. He's retired now from Barnes Thornburg. He was literally my mentor, my person. He's the reason I came to Barnes Thornburg. I did not know anything about Barnes Thornburg. Remember, I didn't remember that I used to deliver things there. I just thought it was a fancy place.
Yeah.
But Alan called me, my sorority sister, who was an intern at the time at Barnes in Indianapolis. So this was been back in like 1994, 93 and 94. Told Alan about me, and he called me. No internet at that time. No, none of those things. And says, I don't know this guy from anybody. Calls and says, I want you to apply to Barnes Thornburg in Fort Wayne, and by the way, fix your resume. And I'm like, well, first of all,
who is this?
What do you mean fix my resume? And I'm like, crap, I left a number off. So, you check all the details. Your name is at the top, and it's like Dawn, at the time, my maiden name, Dawn Westfield, and then I had my phone number, and I left one of the numbers off.
No way.
Somehow he worked to find my actual number. No internet, none of that stuff, and found me and called me. And then when I was a summer, came down from Indianapolis to meet me and was like, you will do this. You're going to be great. And then made it a point to look out for me. And when I say that, sometimes people think like, oh, yeah, Alan gave her work. I never actually did any work with Alan until I became a partner because we were not in the same department.
Great.
But he made sure he saw me. That's
Wow.
that sponsorship part.
Yeah.
Everywhere he went, he's like, come with me. He's like, and he would say things like, nice shoes, or I like your bag. And I'm like, what? And what I realized, because he's very put together, and I realized he's teaching me how to show up in these rooms. So I would start figuring out what do I need to wear.
Yep.
He's noticing details, so details mattered. But Alan Mills, I would not have ever come to Barnes, nor would I have stayed, because he literally at times, all those times I wanted to quit because things got hard or all the things, he would call and be like, you will not fail on my watch. That's so how could I not be that person
But
for somebody?
How did they see that?
What do you mean?
How did earlier I said, seeing somebody's potential is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, and especially if you're, in a disagreement with somebody, trying to give them credibility in something. It's not easy to see somebody else's essence. It's harder to see your own, I think.
Well, I can't speak for him certainly, but I do think that, and this is I hear your question like this, like if I use my phrasing like I was sponsored by Alan and some of the other folks that I did, I've talked about. You have to be. There's a role for the person being sponsored, the protege, to play. I ran the play. This guy I didn't know called me and said, apply to Barnes. Fix your resume. I didn't know him. I'm kind of I'm got mouth and all that things like that at 24, 23 years old. But I did it. And then he told me, you're going to, I want you to do this and come visit me in Indianapolis. I did it. Because while I didn't know who he was, while I didn't know anything about being a lawyer, I didn't know who Jack Hunter was, really. I didn't understand general counsel and the fact that I had a seat with the head lawyer at Lincoln. I didn't understand that. I did appreciate, and this is back a testament to my mother, I fully respected that they had traveled a road that I had not yet traveled.
Yeah.
And that they were offering something to me that they could never get back, which was their time.
Yes.
And I was not going to waste it. Mr. Blanks was not my favorite person making me write that. But I process, and maybe this is the way I'm built too, I process him telling me, like, you're better than this, write it again. Even though I didn't like it, I processed that as actually him caring about me.
Wow.
Does it make sense?
Totally.
Because I don't.
He's picking on me.
That's not my personality. Plus, again, you have to understand like how I was raised. My mother is like, she pulled no punches. Literally, I didn't do well at my first semester at law school, and I remember being home for Christmas break, and I was in our living room, crying, oh my God, I got my grades. Like, oh my God, my life is over. Want to be a lawyer all my life, and it's ruined. I've failed. It's terrible.
I suck.
Oh, I suck. All the things. And my mother was upstairs. Over their house, they had a balcony. They have a balcony thing upstairs, and she heard me, and she's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I told her, "I'm like, I got my grades. It's terrible, whatever." I mean, when I got my grades, I was like walking down the street like what is it, Ben Stiller, and like something about Mary, like that kind of cry, whatever. And she says to me, "All right, well, you have two choices. You either quit or stop all that crying and take your ass back to school." And I'm like, you're the worst mother I've ever seen in my life. I just you have no idea. You're horrible. You're a horrible human. Yeah.
You got to meet Kathy Sackett. Trust me.
But she was so right, and that's what I was raised with. She held me, and I do this with my husband and I did this and do this with our sons. We actually created a personal mission statement or a family mission statement. But my mother, not this language, but she held me accountable to my royalty. She made sure that I didn't apologize at all for being in the room, and not only did I not apologize, that I take ownership of it. And she insisted, got it, fell down, get back up, go. And we do that with our boys. Like, we will not let you be mediocre on our watch. That's not perfection. That's not getting a certain job. That's about, you've got some great stuff inside of you. All of us do. You're not going to half-step that, man. You're not going to do that. So I don't know what they saw. I can't speak to that. But I've always been this. I've always respected when someone bet on me, or saw me. There's a power. I mean, I know this is a quote, but it is true. There is such a power in being seen.
Yeah.
And them taking the time, they didn't have to do it. I recognize that they did not have to do it. And each one of those folks I named, Mr. Blanks, even though I didn't like what he was saying to me, the reason why I was able to listen to him is because he was kind first. I didn't just happen to show up in his office, because I needed somebody to look at an essay. I had a relationship with Mr. Blanks, so I would go check in with him, and I would tell him what I wanted to do. And he would check on me, and what are you doing, and when's the deadline, and what about this, and did you do this? And then he was like, how's your mom? How's your brother? How's whatever? So him then saying to me, you're better than this, has context.
Yeah.
Talking about people investing in you and providing advice and kind of giving you the lay of the land on how to perform in rooms and how to interact with people. We always like to ask our guests on the show if they could give one piece of advice to the viewers. What would it be? And I'm sure you've got plenty of good advice to give.
Show up for yourself. Bet on yourself. Because quite frankly, you're the only sure thing. I mean, you're never going to regret betting on yourself. And I think it's our reasonable service, and I think it's the most honorable thing to our creation, our uniqueness, is that we show up. That we actually show up. And I try not to have any regrets. And I know, like I said, I was able to accomplish things, but I wish I would have understood that and given myself permission to do that sooner. I think
sometimes, there's an old saying that youth is wasted on the youth.
Yeah.
And
hey.
but again, I remember those challenges fondly.
Yeah.
Life's hard.
Yeah.
It's harder if you're stupid, but life is hard, and I think that
I'm stealing that, by the way. Tell him I'm stealing that.
Well, if you don't, go ahead. But I think that if we didn't bet on ourselves, thank God for those people that made us have to bet on ourselves.
Yeah.
Thank God for that, because I think of some of the bosses I had over the years and stuff. I had, just like teachers, I've had great ones and I've had horrible ones that would phone it in. Bad bosses. But what do you take from that?
Yeah.
You still got to take something with it.
That's right.
If somebody is showing you the wrong path, fine. But then understand that so that next time it doesn't happen again.
That's right.
We're not here to replicate our mistakes.
That's right.
And I think that's a work ethic, and that's something that my parents obviously were forced on me.
Yeah.
I remember at a track meet, my parents went home because I just got off the flu. And I wasn't running my best. I ran on a track scholarship to college. So I just got over the flu. Went into school. We didn't have cell phones. So I went into the school, called my parents. Where are you guys? Because they weren't up in the stands. We went home. They answered the phone. Well, why? You weren't trying hard enough. So we're going to go home. We didn't come here to watch that. And I'm thinking, I just got over the flu.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
And man, when my parents were in the stands, I was trying, How and why would people... How should they follow you or get in contact with you?
My gosh. I am on Instagram under the letter U _Rain. I have
REIGN.
REIGN, that's right. I have a podcast that I'm actually going to revamp at some point, but I still have episodes out there that are phenomenal. Get a chance to talk to wonderful people here in my network in Fort Wayne called Standing in the Rain. It's on everywhere you get podcasts. REIGN, that's right.
I'm just going to keep reinforcing
I love
that,
it.
Man.
You better. Can you come with me?
Yeah. I got your back.
And of course, I'm, all of my, I'm on Facebook under, I think you don't have to say REIGN on this one. It's just Dawn Rosemond on there.
Okay.
Yeah, you can find, although I do have a page.
DAWN. Right.
That's right. And then obviously I am, at, proudly at Barnes Thornburg, and so if they ever needed anything, certainly they can call. Especially, I love talking to people who are thinking about going to law school or thinking about a career in this, whatever, to talk to them about what that looks like. And I've been out a while, but I can still.
You're very inspiring.
Well, I appreciate it.
It's a great story.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, into our rapid wrap-up questions. Number 1, Are you a lake person or a hiking person?
Neither. Neither. I mean,
What would you choose instead?
Ocean. Yeah, I don't like lakes that much.
I'm from Florida.
Okay.
And so the beach makes more sense to me. Like the ocean makes more sense to me than a lake with standing water.
Yeah, I don't like.
It kind of freaks me out.
I just stand there and look at it, and I'm like,
The
it
seaweed
doesn't do
freaks
anything.
me out.
Yeah, I don't like it, but
It's
oh
not
my
right.
gosh, I could sit by an ocean all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Even though there's sharks and sharks are scary.
I didn't
but
say
that's
go in
fine.
it. Don't go in it. Sit
Just
by
look at it.
Sit by it. Yeah.
Looks nicer.
It's more of a thing to look at, really, than get involved
Yeah, I don't
with.
want to be in it. It freaks me
Yeah,
out.
no, what the hell?
Yeah.
Speaking of something to look at, would you rather see a concert at the Clyde or a show at the Embassy?
This is going to be a prevailing theme. Even though both are beautiful venues, neither. Outside. I saw Big Boy from Outkast at Follinger, and I went to the concert. I went to see Bone Thugs and Harmony at Headwaters Park or whatever, and I think I saw Doobie Brothers at Headwaters Park.
Wow.
I love outside concert.
Yeah.
I saw Al Green outside. I'm like, come on.
You know,
Yeah.
last year I saw the Sugar Hill Gang.
Let's
here.
go,
Yeah,
right?
right?
You wait for one song that lasts 15 minutes.
Dun, 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 dun. Okay, I'm out.
You're like, I'm
Yeah.
out. I can't take it anymore.
Apache, you got it.
That's right.
What is your favorite aspect of your work?
The people. I have had the privilege over the years of working with some amazing humans.
You talk about loving the show Shark Tank
Yeah.
in the book. So if you had the opportunity to be a guest on Shark Tank, what do you think you would pitch?
Oh, I'd pitch a care package company. Yeah, I dig that. My mother used to send boxes of all kinds of stuff when I was in college. I mean, and it was my favorite thing. It'd be like, she would literally send food. My friends would be like, hey, what did she send us? I'm like, she didn't send us anything.
Us
Yeah, but
nothing.
she
Oh,
said,
what's
yeah,
this us crap?
Yeah. But it was so cool, and it's always been my thing. I love giving gifts. I love doing that, and so it's a heartbeat of mine to want to. I'd love to like formalize a care package company and do stuff like that. That'd be hot if I could figure that out.
I got to tell you, you are such an inspiring person.
I'm honored. I mean that. I keep saying the same word, but I don't have a better one. I really am. I'm honored, and I'm humbled. I don't take it lightly. You could have picked anybody, so I appreciate you yielding your time.
Well, listen, if Nick recommends somebody, we take a stronger listen to that. And I got to tell you, you did not disappoint.
Well, thank you
So
so
thank
much.
you.
Oh my gosh, and I really hope we stay in touch. I
Oh,
mean,
for
just-
sure.
yeah,
you're not getting away from me.
I know.
now.
It's gonna be like.
Is your
every
number on
day-
your resume? I'll
That's
call
right.
that.
Yeah.